righty. Welcome everybody to the August 4th Ortelius architecture meeting. Let me drop the link again in case you came in a little bit later. There is the link to the docs. So go ahead and sign in, and today's probably going to be a relatively quick meeting because we're kind of like on a taking a little bit of time off in August for everybody taking vacations. But in general, we officially got the XRPL grant, and what we will be doing is September, after Labor Day in the States, we'll start kicking off the architecture piece on creating what we need to do around the blockchain and persisting our JSON information into an NFT IPFS storage. So I have a feeling between now and and that meeting, things are pretty changing up pretty quickly on the XRPL side. And also just in the whole blockchain NFT IPFS world in general. So if you keep your ears and eyes out for any blockchain type of or IPFS or NFT projects that you come around, mainly on the storage and searching of data that's in the NFT. So we will be storing our data as JSON in the NFT on IPFS. Last time, I think I mentioned there was an IPFS storage or an NFT storage called, I think, Filecoin. That was supposed to be relatively cheap compared to using like a S3 bucket or one of the other storage mechanisms out there. The amount of data that we're going to have initially is going to be pretty low. We're not storing like videos or anything like that. So our NFTs are going to be pretty small, but I think we're going to have a good number of them. So anytime we make a change to an application or component, or we do a build, we're going to end up pushing that over to the blockchain and into the storage process. So that's where we'll have a good deal of transactions that we'll have to manage at that level.
Quick question.
Yep.
Quick question. So the storage, how important is the storage decision straight up? Does it need to be immutable? So if we decided maybe, let's say we start in S3 and then we move, we obviously have to transfer that and then hook it back up, right?
Yeah, so it would be, we do want immutable storage. And that's one of the things that when you use an NFT, that NFT ends up being immutable. Now the tricky part with NFTs is you want to put them into a distributed network, so they can't really be manipulated. You can manipulate them, but you won't. As soon as you go in and touch and start messing around with the data, you invalidate the key for it. So that's one of the things that like IPFS does pretty much by default. When you create a file, it makes it immutable, which is one of the criteria that we have.
And it's a series of files in the storage, or I'd like to understand. I can read up on it, but
yeah. So what we're gonna do is at this point, we'll have two levels of storage that we'll need. So we'll have a storage at the component level. So when a component is a version of a component is created, we would take that information as JSON and push it into the storage. So everything about the component, you know, the name of it, you know, who created it, you know, the basic service catalog stuff around the component, and then also the component SBOMs. So if you have a Docker image that's consuming, you know, like a Python Flask application, we're going to have some SBOM related to Python, and we're going to have SBOM related to the container that the Flask application is running on. So that SBOM information plus the component service catalog information would be basically a snapshot of JSON that we'd push into storage. Now, the next level of storage is at the application level. So the application versions are going to reference component versions, and that's where we would do a second storage of JSON with little relationships.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you? Sorry, Yukash, you go.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, can you please just write in the chat that other storage option that you said? I just want to check it out.
Yeah, let me I will drop the link to the proposal and all that stuff so you can read up on it. And there's a repo out there. I believe it's, let me see if it has everything out there. Where is it? And let me look at all the repositories. There it is. Here is the link to the.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Yukash, we spoke at the same time.
Yeah, go ahead, Ukarsh.
So, Steve, what I was like wondering. So we are storing this data, and this data is like immutable data. So whenever a new version of a data is persisted, there will be a new set of data, right? So, so during the time, there will be like the whole storage will have a lot of data because. Like my first question is like, do we have a instance of that database, or that is like global instance that can be accessible like for anyone? What sort of that database is that?
That is something that we're going to think about at the architecture when we get into the dive into the architecture. So let's say we are like Ortelius. When Ortelius, because it's an open source project, when we go and build Ortelius and we publish, you know, the Helm chart and stuff like that, that from the Ortelius basically dashboard or website, you know, the application, not the web that you can go and look at the version of Ortelius that was published and see the dependencies and the SBOMs that are associated with the Ortelius open source project. Now that, because Ortelius is open source, we're going to include other open source packages and information. So all that would be kind of like at a public level of the blockchain and the NFT. Now, if you're a company that is running Ortelius and you want to have your applications, your internal applications that you're building, that is where we have to figure out if we're going to have that company stand up their own blockchain process, or if we're just going to do it more anonymously, kind of like Bitcoin does, you know, where it's more of anonymous transactions, that you know who you are yourself, but nobody knows who, you know, you could identify your transactions and stuff, but somebody else can't go and find out who you are. And then there's another process, they call them side chains. And it's kind of like a federated blockchain model. And I think we're going to run into this a lot with Ortelius, because there are going to be other blockchain and ledgers that we're going to need to reference. So like Sigstore is going to be another, it's not necessarily a blockchain, but it's another ledger that we're going to need to be able to reference and validate against. Persia is another open source project. They're building open source packages and signing them and like doing immutable builds around those. They have a blockchain. Then there's going to be a couple other Notary 2 is going to be coming out around signing and identification. So I think that's where we're going to have, from the Ortelius point of view, we're going to be kind of like snapshotting all this together and being able to track those relationships across multiple ledgers is what we're going to have to keep in the back of our mind. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Just one more question. So let's suppose there is one organization and that adopts the Ortelius. So there will be concern from that organization as well, right? Like, where are you storing my data and stuff?
Right, and that's where the XRPL calls them side chains. So that organization could stand up their own ledger that they would be controlling the access to. So Ortelius would be able to read and write to that ledger internally, but somebody from the outside world couldn't come into that ledger and exploit it.
Okay.
And that's going to be the challenge for us, is being able to look at this information across these dispersed locations. So we are going to be doing a lot of federating, and that's going to be one of the things that we have to figure out. Do we federate on the fly, or do we have like a batch process or cron job that does the federating? Where's that data persisted when we federate it? Those type of things. And that's why I keep on pushing to look at like the Rango DB and some of the other graph databases, because we're going to have a large number of relationships in the transactions that we kind of have to navigate through.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
So if we're at a good spot for it, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
So things, when I look at an architecture, and I certainly read through it and I have it open now, I would expect to see that I don't find is, first of all, I don't see a data model for example, what's held in the service catalog.
Right, and that's one of the things that we are in the process of figuring out.
Okay.
What the requirements are, and like Ukarshis is saying, when we get into this, what is where type of world and who has access to what, that's where we'll be building out that data model. Okay. I mean, we do have a database tables today that Ortelius is running on top of Postgres, but I think what we're going to need to do is move that more into a document based database.
Okay.
So
well,
that I think it's going to change the data model a little bit.
Okay. For people to call into the catalog and, for example, search services, use services, they have to format in some fashion. Similarly, I'd expect to see a few other things. Some form of overview diagram that shows how things fit together and what the notional flows are is something I would expect.
Yeah, I think that's in the Ortelius documentation. We have that diagram. And it may
Okay.
not be in this, in the XRPL diagram
Well,
documentation.
Yeah, it's not in the one file that was included in the invitation was an Ortelius architecture document. And it's not in there that I can find.
Oh, okay.
And then,
I think it got moved over to the documentation site. So I'll have to update that invite and get
Okay.
that to you.
all right,
So-
well, I think I know where the documentation site is. What I'm remarking on is I would expect an architecture document to be something you could read and go, okay, I see the things I need to understand the intended architecture.
And if it's not, if what we have isn't answering your question, we'll make sure that we'll get an issue open and get that updated.
Well,
So-
what I could do is I'll drop you a note of things I thought I'd find and didn't, and then you can inform me rather than me chew a bunch of time here.
Okay, that works. Yeah, if you go to docs.ortelius.io, that will be you'll see a user guide and a contributor guide underneath that. The user guide will I should have, if I remember correctly, some of the architecture information in the introduction.
Okay, again, my point being, if we tell somebody something's an architecture, they should be able to read it and in fact come away with an understanding of the architecture.
Yep.
So, anyway, I'll just, like I said, I'll drop you a quick note and, you can let me know what I should be thinking and so on.
Yep, sounds good. So that's kind of what we have going on with the XRPL and the grant. Like I said, we'll be starting in September. We may bring on a person that has been doing blockchain work for the last like 10 years. Has done extensive stuff with Bitcoin, with IBM and a couple other well-known blockchain implementations. Also, we'll be able to get support from the XRPL developers through the Discord, their Discord channel. So we're not going to be out there alone on this, which is going to be, we have some decent support, it looks like. So with that, that's what I have. Brad, do you want to do an update from your side on what you have going on with Captain and the GitOps pieces and stuff?
Yeah, so Captain's they've improved their webhook integration. So we're originally going to write a Golang plugin for Captain that talks to Ortelius. So now we don't really need to. So we can actually leverage the webhook service. So we have an environment ready to go. We just need to have some sort of a flow diagram with API calls of what we actually want to achieve, and then we're ready to go straight away. So I think we're going to have a session next week on that.
Yeah, and I think on that on the flow diagram, we may want to do something with Mermaid and kind of do like a state diagram so it's easier to follow, with the columns and the transactions going back and forth.
Yeah, I think Sasha would be he loves tools like that. So
yeah,
you might want to help out. He's the tool man. He's
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think the state diagram kind of from top to bottom will be easier to follow. Will be another layer for people to follow other than the one Sasha did with the transactions going from one tool to the next tool. I think we need both of them. So I think the state diagram should be what we try to tackle next.
Yeah, and when I was saying, I was meaning more specifically of the integration with Ortelius of what actions we're performing. Because it's a little bit like just, okay, we're pushing stuff to Ortelius, but it doesn't say what or how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think in that state diagram, we should, lay out the transactions, lay out the payloads, so we all are on the same page.
Yeah, so that I guess in a way I'm blocked by that. So other things I've been looking at as well is integrating testing into this workflow, because what I've found is when we're doing things like if folks want to do like canary deployments, for example, you can do a canary deployment at 2 a.m. and you can generate a canary deployment will just poll like Prometheus and say, did you have 500 errors while we were progressing the application? And then what I've found is if you don't have any real traffic, then you're not really going to get those errors. So adding testing to that is very important. So
Right.
Been working a little bit with CubeShop. So they're an open source incubator, and they have they're sort of, in my eyes, they're sort of leading the testing a little bit. It's a bit of a gap, in my opinion, in the cloud native space. So they've got tools like Trace Test, TestCube. TestCube would be an easy one for us to adopt because you can just upload Postman collections and then you can sort of automate it into the pipeline pretty easy. So been sort of spiking that a little bit to see how we can fit that in.
Cool.
And yeah, pretty much just really ready to go with Ortelius. Just we just have to have that meeting to get started, really.
Yeah. Since I got both you and Utkarsh on the line now, does Tuesday work?
Yeah. I don't know what your time is now, but even after this meeting, I would be free. But if you're not, that's fine too.
No, I have another meeting here in 5 minutes. So,
Sure.
can we do Tuesday same time?
Yep, that works.
That works for both of you. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I will send out an invite and make sure everybody has the right information there. So I'll get that sent out here in a little bit. The invite for Tuesday, same time as this meeting.
Yeah, and I want to talk to Tracy maybe soon as well about keeping the new contributors sticky. So we have a lot of new contributors coming through, but I feel like we need to work a little bit more on the program about how we can actually get them involved and staying, because they join and then maybe they get a little bit lost and then they just sort of go away. So maybe bring like the badge program in a little bit more with like, making a new badge for like their first contribution and things like that would help.
Yep.
So
yep, definitely.
Probably like, yeah.
And then I know the one thing that we struggle with it and in general in the community is just like project management. So if that'd be like one role that we really kind of need is somebody to help with the project management, and like you said, when the new folks come in, getting them working on something, even if it's small.
Yeah,
those type of things I just get way behind on, and I just can't keep up on.
Yeah, we can consider having like we could consider making it like a community role. And extent, like I think we have like Science Ambassador, we have a few other roles, but maybe that's another role we could have, which would be quite effective.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
And even if it's
for it.
Yeah, and even if it's just like if somebody comes in new, we kind of do like kind of on Discord do a quick like I don't know, like interview to find out what they're interested, their skill set, and then being able to point them to a starting issue to work on.
Yeah, I think I really love the badges you get for a contributor. It's once every microservice visionary, but the new, especially younger folks, they love like it's probably their first open source contribution. They love to put it on Twitter and that. So bringing a lower, maybe congratulations on your first contribution to Ortelius would really help them stay as well and get them really interested to do more.
Yeah, milestone kind of thing.
Yeah, as simple as it sounds, it's very effective.
Oh yeah, and those badges are easy to do.
Exactly.
I can't remember the platform, if it's Badger.
Badger, yeah.
Badger.
Yeah, so creating those is pretty easy to do. It's more of just the you know, the logistics side, making sure that we get it created in a timely fashion. Things just get dropped sometimes.
Yeah, but I feel like I can get a lot of people to join, but to stay is a different story. So yeah, we need to work a little bit around that.
Definitely. Alrighty. Anything else?
So Steve, regarding that RangoDB story, I created a POC issue for that. We'll be working on that.
I don't remember if that
That
got
RangoDB that you're talking about, right?
right.
Yeah. So we decided like we'll work on some POC to see like how much time it takes to upload the document.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that will be is part of the when we get into the architecture around the XRPL, that will start creating some issues with you know, like Brad was saying, go off and spike a particular tool that we need to investigate, you know, those types of things that we'll need to flush out. So folks could come back and let us know what they found around those different tools so we can choose the right implementation.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
That's it for me.
I don't mind drawing more things. Just saying.
All right. Well, have you used Mermaid before in Markdown, Sasha?
No, I haven't used Mermaid.
Yeah, it's
It
pretty
looks
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it makes the doing diagrams pretty easy because you just literally do certain patterns in your Markdown in a Mermaid block, and then you get this nice graph showing up. So if you want to change something on the fly, you just go in and edit the Markdown, and then you save it and you got it rendered. So it's really works nice for that fashion.
I'm checking it out now. I'll go take a look, and then just let me know what you want me to draw.
Yeah, so it will be they have like a state diagram in Mermaid where it has like the different columns showing the arrows going between the different kind of like a transaction flow at that level. That is the one that we'll probably end up using. And there is a Mermaid plugin for VS Code that renders pretty good. It's not 100% perfect, but it works pretty decent, so you can get an idea of what your Markdown is going to render as.
Okay, cool. See, it's a JavaScript based.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Mermaid JS is, I think, the plugin name. And then in your Markdown code, you do like your 3 backticks, and then Mermaid JS, and then your block, and then you put your Mermaid code in there, and then it will render it for you.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, nice. Something new.
Yeah, I think it's like a 1,500 page manual.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do. Yes. There's a lot you can
so
do.
It's pretty flexible.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, guys, I have to drop
Yes.
for another meeting. Thanks, everybody. And I will get that invite sent out for next Tuesday.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks,
It was
everybody.
nice.
Take care.
Nice to be here. See ya.